Hello guys, it's Ty, aka the Flip Man. Can't find a buyer. Now what? Smart. You know what? Wholesaling houses, your cash or credit won't matter. Very, very common question. This scares people to death about this business, probably more than anything outside of probably the contract, which I always say if you get to the paperwork part of it, I mean, if you got a buyer and seller in place, the paperwork is easy. But I guess that's easy for me to say after as long as I've been doing it. But I understand. But can't find a buyer. That gives a lot of people a lot of heartache and hesitation about the business. Well, folks, let me tell you, you really don't have anything to worry about. An easy fix, because if you're finding deals now, not just putting stuff under contract. Deals, buyers are easy. You've heard me say it 1,000 times if you watched enough of my videos, is that it's not hard to give away money. But don't let anyone tell you. And if they do, you may want to run. If you do this long enough, you will put properties under contract and you will not be able to find a buyer for it. That's just the way it is. That shouldn't happen that often if you're doing what you're supposed to do on the seller side as far as negotiating, but it shouldn't happen that often. Some of it is just out of especially when you're first starting out, you won't know what buyers are really willing to pay for in a particular area unless you already had some form of experience, maybe through some bird dogging or something. But you won't know what buyers are really willing to pay for in a particular part of town, especially when you get into the more blue collar or lower ends of your market. You really won't know what they're willing to pay, because a lot of it's perception, which may not be actual reality, but it's reality because that's what they're willing to pay. So, but don't let that scare you off. Just remember, if people living in a particular area, whether they're there through rentals mostly or through sales or whatever, those houses are not free. So that those were transactions, and that gives you an opportunity to make money. I don't care if that's on the lower end, the middle class part of your market, or the higher end, but we're really talking about the lower end because that may be a little bit more difficult to figure out sometimes. And you won't know until buyers let you know that either I'm doing a great job of negotiating or I'm not doing a good job of negotiating. And I train my students to, you always want to, you may have the greatest buyers list in the world for your market, but you always want to negotiate your deals as if you didn't have a buyer. That normally, just from my experience, it keeps you in the mindset that I really need to negotiate a very attractive deal. And you may have a buyer ready to go, but you still want to try to capitalize on as much money as you can make, because it is what it is. Now, before I get any further on this topic, I'm going to go into great detail on it. I want to make sure that you can access my 200 plus free videos on my at my site, in which that'll give you an opportunity. That's flipman.net, and that'll give you an opportunity to go to my YouTube channel. Now, if you're on watching this on Facebook, if you just tap the button to the bottom right that says watch more or learn more, that should give you access to these same 200 videos. You won't believe it. You just won't believe. You never heard of me, never seen me before. You won't believe it. You just like, this guy's got to be kidding. But 200 free videos, everything you need to know about wholesaling houses. For those of you that want to get questions and answers and learn something every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, you can sign up for my Flippinar. Flippinars at flippinar.com. That's right, seminars and webinars had a baby and produced a Flippinar, which is all real estate top focused when you say Flippinar. So you can access this there, but on top of that, you can see what I offer as far as coaching and my step-by-step courses and what's being charged for that. If you attend the Flippinars, you're going to have a weekly opportunity to get a significant discount on that on coaching if you need it. Some of you don't need it. The 200 plus free videos will be enough. That's fine. You want a free copy of the one-page contract that I've used for more than 13 years, just simply text the word contract to 313131. Do not text me. Text the word contract to 313131. 313131 is just like our phone number. Just type that in as if you were going to text someone and then text the word contract. I know some of you probably laughing, but trust me, I get texts all the time. People text me 313131 or they'll text me contract. So that's why I'm being a little bit clear, trying to be a little clear here. All right, so if you want a free copy, that's what you do. If you need proof of funds, you're dealing with realtors on where they're going to take you serious. You show some form of funds that you can pay for your deal. Now, you still have to have an exit strategy with a buyer, but you can get that at realpof.com. That's realpof.com. Again, you can access the 200 plus free videos that I have at flipman.net. And back to the topic at hand here. Can't find the buyer, now what? Smart, you know what. And I'm saying you know what because a guy actually checked me, say, please don't use profanity. So someone gives me constructive criticism, I'm up to take it. So I'll try not to use any profanity. I normally don't, but he'd say I did, and so we'll go with that on the webinar we had. So anyway, again, so you can't find a buyer. So as I said, this terrifies most people about getting into this business because that's half of your success. The seller's the first half, the buyer's the other half. And again, it all starts with negotiations. So what if you can't find a buyer? So what do you do, Mr. Flip Man? What do you do, Mr. Smart? You know what? So this is what you do. All right, you go back to the seller and one or two things. You ask them for more time and they give it to you. Yes. Or you go back to them, ask them for more time and they don't give it to you. All right. Obviously, if you go back to them and you ask for more time and they give it to you, then you're going to try to get a minimum of 2 weeks. If you can get 30 days, get 30 more days. You know, I've done it plenty of times over the years. So if you can get that, get it. Now, if you go back to them and they say no, then it is what it is. Now, you can try to see if you can do some other things, which I'll talk about here in a second. But if they say no, you thank them for their time and let them know if anything changes, give you a call back. Now, most people say, well, can't they sue you? But you could be sued for anything. The agreement that you have in place, now I'm not an attorney, but I'm just telling you from my experience, I've never been sued with this or whatever, but they keep the earnest money. That's part of the reason you put up the earnest money, whether that's $10, $50, 100, even 1,000 if you put that much up. I rarely do that. But even if you put that settles the agreement, that's part of the reason why you put up the earnest money. Again, you can be sued for anything, but that doesn't mean they're going to win because this is just standard practice with real estate. I'll give you a better example. And some of you may have experienced this. You may be trying to buy a house to live in and you go through the traditional channels of using a lender. And a week before the closing, they check your credit again. And each lender is different. I'm not saying all lenders do this. But they check your credit again and, hey, some shows up that they didn't see before. All right? And so they go back to you and they need another $5,000 for closing as for the down payment to get the percentage that they're actually going to lend. And you don't have it. You can't come up with it. So now you're breaking the deal. So what, the seller is going to make you buy the house? No different. No different. Now they can sue you, but so again, do they really have anything to stand on? People can sue for anything. So now let's go back and give you another scenario. And this is renegotiate price. All right. So you may have a buyer, you may have the property under contract for $50,000 and you've been advertising it at $65,000 and you're really not getting a lot of action on it. And you have one buyer that comes back to you, you're 3 weeks into your contract, you got maybe 10 days left or whatever. And a buyer comes to you, say, I want this house, but the most I can do on it is $50,000 and I'll close in a week or as soon as we get a clear title. All right. So you still got time. You can either do a couple of things here. You can try to continue to market, see if you can find a buyer, or you can go back to the seller and try to renegotiate the price. I've done this. Some with some success, some with no success. But you go back to them, see if they're interested. A lot of times you've already built some rapport. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you built some rapport with the actual owner of the property, the seller, and you go back to them and ask them, hey, say that you're going to be a little short on being able to close this deal, but you can come up with about $40,000. All right, you're not lying. All right, so sellers either going to do one or two things. They may counter, or they just say, nah, just move on, like that. All right, so if they say, hey, yeah, I can't do 40, but I tell you what, I can do 44. Wow, boom, you just built $6,000 into a closing, because you can get it under contract now, renegotiate at $44,000 and wholesale it for $50,000 because your buyer's willing to pay that. So that's $6,000. Now, it may be a situation you could only get them down $1,000. You have to make an executive decision. What's half a zero? If I know this is a guy, after I've talked to the buyer, someone I've never dealt with before, and I think he's going to be a repeat buyer, then I'm going to probably do it even for just $1,000. I've done as little as $500 before. And the way I look at it is that buyer paid me $500 to be added to my buyer's list. And plus I, kept my part of the deal with the seller, which is really important to me, if all possible. All right. So that's one thing. All right. Now you may go back to a seller because your time has ran out and the house is in really good condition. For whatever reason, it's livable, and you may can negotiate some terms as form as a lease option. Really not my thing. I've done them over the years, but that may be an option also. So again, either yes or no. All right. The other thing is, and this is probably the most important thing, it all starts from the beginning. And again, you may not know because you're new, and all the formulas in the world may not prepare you for some of this, because you really won't know what your buyers will pay in your market unless you put some properties out there for them to call you on. And you can just do some dummy properties. People do that. I really don't encourage that, but you can do some dummy properties on Craigslist or maybe even Zillow and see what type of response and what people are really willing to pay for it. If you're more comfortable with that, then do it. Person don't suggest it, but people do it or whatever. But it all starts with what you negotiated, how great of a deal you negotiated. And your market will tell you. Again, some of it's just perception, and you can kill it in one area on properties that got the same price, everything as far as perception in your mind, because you're just looking at houses. But you're from there, you may know this, but you may not know it until you start talking to some actual buyers and you're just getting more action in one area versus the area, even though the prices are virtually the same type neighborhood, maybe crime affected, may not be, maybe middle class blue, but it's just perception. So some of it you just won't know. So again, just to recap, if you can't find a buyer, only a few things you could do. Obviously, go back to the seller and ask for more time, and they give it to you. You go back to the seller and they don't give it to you. If they don't give it to them, as I said, thank them for their time. Let them know if anything changes, give you a call back. Sometimes it may just be a simple renegotiation of price because you have a buyer ready to go. Sometimes you go back and renegotiate the price and you don't have a buyer. It just depends on what type of rapport and what you're thinking. And I guess it doesn't cost you anything to go back and ask. That's for sure. All right. And the other thing is that you can offer different options as far as terms in the form of a lease option. Some people prefer subject to or whatever. Not really my thing again, but that option is out there. And then as I said from the beginning, it's very important that you negotiate the best price available. Again, before I go, make sure you access, if you want, 200 plus free videos at flipman.net. If you're on Facebook, you can tap the button, learn more, watch more to access those. You want to definitely, if you want your questions answered live from me directly, the Flip Man, you can go to flipbernard.net.com. Again, I offer special discounts on my actual coaching and courses there. Only you can get it there on flipbernard.com. If you want a free copy of my one-page contract, simply text the word contract to 313131. Do not text me. Text 313131 and the word contract and hit send. All right. And if you need proof of funds, REALPOF.com, realpof.com. Trying to get offers accepted by agents. That's the only way they're going to take you serious. Again, you can access 200 free videos at flipman.net. Thanks, and I will see you on the next video.